10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All systems go.
You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
Anything
Could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
And good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you. Thankful that you're here with us. We are coming at you live from our studio here in Greater Sudbury and coming at you live on terrestrial radio, cklu.ca, online, so CKLU 96.7 FM on your radio, cklu.ca on the internet. Just click on the Radio Player Canada app and you can stream us. If you download the Radio Player Canada app, you can take us with you and listen to us anywhere, anytime on your favorite device. We're grateful for you being with us. I'm thankful to be with you this morning on this April the 3rd, 2025. April 2nd, 2025 was Liberation Day in the United States. Donald Trump had a press conference. He delivered a speech. He talked about the tariffs that he would be putting on trading countries, all the countries basically in the world that they have trading deals with, Canada included. Could have been worse for Canada. We know that there's going to be tariffs in the auto industry for sure. And it could have been a lot worse. How about that? So in coming days, we're going to unpack what that actually means for Canada and Canada's economy. But we'll cover some local news stories today. We will then also talk a little bit about our federal election, as we have, only weeks until we decide who will be running the country for the next foreseeable future, at least 4 years or whatever. Canada, there's nothing set in stone. You can have an election anytime, almost for any reason. So we don't know what's going to happen there. But anyways, whoever's going to win the election will be known. Who knows? The way elections go these days may not be known on the 28th of April. Maybe we'll have to wait a week or two, depending how, these days elections go for whatever reason. We don't know right away. In this world where we have technology, we have such great technology, we can't even know who won an election in real time. It's pretty amazing how that happens. And we'll be asking questions as we usually do on this show. That's what the show is meant for. Asking questions. So it's your chance to share your views on the news. It's your conversation on your station. So make sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow our social medias, in which we are live on 2 of them right now, Facebook and YouTube. And we'll do our best to get your comments read for those listening, up on the screen for those watching. And then we'll kind of switch on over to covering the news on, on our news aggregator, which has all of our local news aggregated into one website, which is a service we're doing to the community in answer to the bills that were passed in Canada that make it that we can't have news on Facebook or share news on Facebook. So I did a deep dive into that as well, to know that some countries actually outlaw Facebook altogether. You're not allowed to use it unless you have a VPN or something. You're able to get it, which masks your location and has a proxy location somewhere else. That's the only way people can get it in communist countries. But there's only 7, I think, countries that are affected by, have policies in place for Facebook, whether you're allowed to have it or not. We are the only country in the world that has Facebook, but that doesn't allow news to be shared on it. We're the only country in the world that has Facebook, but you're not allowed to be a news outlet on it, and you're not allowed to share any news on it. So let that just sink in for a bit. Canada, get your elbows up. Who are we getting our elbows up for? Like what's going on here? Let's just start asking questions about what it really means to be Canadian. And we'll do our best this show to talk about that, what that means. And so again, we'll be back after the weather with some local headlines. And, a little bit more talking about the particular gentleman who is fired from Best Tech just because he decided to run for a particular political party due to the political party's policies on DEI. Apparently, or at least that's what, the journalist that wrote about it was alluding to. And, so we'll talk a little bit more about that. How does DEI fit into our society? And is it benefiting us? Is it something that we should be incorporating into our fabric of our society? Yeah, so you'll want to stick around for that. Talk about the carbon tax, the low gas prices now. Was it just an election tactic? Did the federal government take a page out of the provincial election that just took place? Have a snap election, people aren't ready for it, pay them off with a $200 check or cheaper gas prices, and have a lot of the voting take place on a holiday and inclement weather as part of it as well, so people have a hard time getting out and campaigning. So it seems to be pretty similar to our provincial playbook of what's going on with our federal election. And whatever that is, good, bad, or ugly. So people love it if you're liberal, but they hated it when it was conservative, right? The same people, It's interesting. It just gives us a chance to stand back and question our own biases and our own beliefs. And why do we think the way we do? Why do we believe what we believe? What does it mean to be Canadian? What does that even mean? So first of all, you're a human being, right, on the planet. So that's one thing. Then you are a certain ethnicity, maybe speaking a certain language, you have a certain heritage, and you live in a certain country, and you're a certain gender. And all of these things are supposed to give you an identity. And what is your identity? And why is your identity the way that it is? How much does it influence the way you are as an individual? Are you just part of some collective Borg? I'll use a Star Trek reference. Or are you an individual who thinks for yourself? You're able to do your own research, come up with your own outcomes, and have your own opinion based on, hopefully, is it something that you want to know, is get to the bottom of things and get to know the truth of things? Or are you just happy being told what to believe? You just go on slogans. Oh, buy Canadian. Oh, I'm buying Canadian now. I wasn't buying Canadian last month, but I'm buying Canadian now. Why? Because Orange Man bad. And Tesla, burn it down. Spray paint it. Key the cars. Damage them. What makes human beings do these types of things? And I think if we were really looking inside ourselves and saying if we were independent thinking human beings, these types of things, they wouldn't happen. Because we'd stand back and go, really? You want me to break the law to prove a point? I don't understand. And you wouldn't end up doing things like that. Oh, you're going to pay me to do it. Okay, well, maybe I'll think twice. You're going to pay me $1,000 for every Tesla dealership I spray paint. Okay, maybe I'll consider that, right? And that is going on, and it's unfortunate that people are being paid to go out and do things like this. In our word, yes, they're being paid to do that. You think they're just activists and they feel really strongly. Well, $1,000 goes a long way to help your feelings be a little more strong. And it's more than $1,000, more than likely. People are paid to do these things. There's paid protesters. There have been over the last 10 years or so, and even more. It's unfortunate. It should be illegal. People should be charged, and the people paying them should be held to account. But unfortunately, they're billionaires or trillionaires doing it, so they're above the law, and these types of things don't happen to them. All right. With all that, a little bit of a rant this morning. Sorry about that. We'll just start off with a little bit of weather and look at it out there. It's pretty terrible. It's probably worse than over the weekend with the freezing rain. We'll cover that and more when we come back after the weather news headlines and your comments. We'll be back right after this. And weather brought to you by Voyageur Tire. Great people, great products, great prices. Visit them at the intersection of the Kingsway Falcon Bridge, 2nd Avenue. Let them know we sent you. Get a 10% discount on already discounted name brand tires. Currently, it's 0 degrees out there. There's light drizzle and fog. Today, we can expect it to be cloudy with a 40% chance of showers or drizzle. The fog patches will be dissipating this morning. The wind will be gusting up to 40 and this morning, but increasing to 70 kilometers per hour, apparently. Right now, it doesn't look like the winds are that bad. Looking outside the studio windows. Temperature falling to 0 this afternoon. Cloudy, 30% chance of rain showers or flurries this evening. Wind will be gusting to 40 late this evening. Low of -6, wind chill -8 overnight. Then Friday, mainly cloudy, clearing early in the afternoon. The high will be 8, wind chill -8 in the morning. And your long range, high of 8 and clearing on Friday. So it won't be totally sunny as the forecast said yesterday and a couple days before. It said completely sunny on Friday. Now it's just going to be clearing, and then chance of showers with a high of 3 on Saturday, the 30% chance of showers as well. On Sunday, with a chance of flurries or rain, high of 3. 60% chance of flurries on Monday with a high of -2, and then 0 on Tuesday, mix of sun and cloud, and it goes all the way up to 9 degrees on Wednesday with a mix of sun and cloud. It's just a mixed bag. It's just get us out of here already. Like crazy weather. Look at your satellite. I mean, it just looks like a 3-year-old had a painting party with hand painted this whole thing with all kinds of colors all over the satellite area, all the way from Manitoba, all the way halfway through Quebec, all Ontario, Michigan, Minnesota, you name it, Wisconsin. It's all clouds everywhere. And that's your Sudbury weather, brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca and Voyageur Tire. Visit them online at VoyageurTire.com or check them out in person at the intersection of Falcon Bridge, Kingsway, and 2nd Ave. Let them know we sent you. Get a 10% discount. We'll be back with news headlines, your comments, and more right after this. All right. Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for sticking around with us. We have quite a few people on YouTube this morning and Facebook as we have started rebroadcasting on YouTube. There's quite a few more people joining us there. Northern Hillbilly, first one to the YouTube party. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to you as well, Nana. Good morning. Blessings, everyone. Heart emoji explanation point. Hard to say this early in the morning. Explanation. All right. Can't even talk. But anyways, Northern Hillbilly, another rabbit hole for people is the golden calf, the red heifer, and the third temple. Yes, Denise has talked about that a few times on the show. Many people looking into that. It's what's going on in Israel. It's been, there's some prophecies associated with that, and, the biblical end time prophecies, so to speak, that there will be a sacrifice made of an unblemished certain calf, and that will kind of open the door for end time events type of thing. So just in case anyone was wondering. And Marvin, morning all. Happy face emoji. Morning to you, Marvin, all the way from Alberta. Very early there, 2 hours earlier than us. And Nancy, good morning. Billy usually is here on Thursdays, but he's not here today. Work schedule. And Northern Hillbilly says, Mad Max PPC for me. And we'll talk more about that their Bondaroff, the candidate for the PPC in Sudbury, was fired from his job recently, the day after it was publicly known through an article on Sudbury.com that he was running, and he had an interview and whatever, and he was shown the door through the HR department the next day, not given a reason why he was fired. And when asked, Best Tech, his employer, said they couldn't discuss it because it was confidential and a confidential HR matter. So we don't know the reason why he was fired, but it was the day after it was publicly known that he was running for the PPC party, the leadership here in Sudbury. Monique, good morning. Sudbury, smiley emoji. Judy, good morning to you. Belinda, good morning. Rather than worry about who will offend by telling the truth, consider who will be misled, deceived, and destroyed if you don't. Befriend your intuition. It'll serve you well in life. Wonderful. Yes, you are so spot on with that. Belinda, thanks for that. And I know you shared a picture yesterday of some police and ambulance activity on Radar Road. Yes, there were quite a few police and ambulances there. We don't have anything yet in the news that I was able to find of what happened last night. It happened at about 5 o'clock, between 5 and 5:30. And there was also a huge police and ambulance presence on the highway between Valley View Road and Main Street in Valcarran as well. So there was something going on in the house and a house on the highway there. Ambulances, huge police presence, and then the same thing on Radar Road yesterday around the same time, between 5 and 6. So we're not sure what happened there. If any of you have information on that, feel free to share it with us. Good morning, Liette from Collingwood. Hand clap emoji, much appreciated. Estelle, good morning to you. Thumbs up, heart emoji. And Marianne, good morning. Everyone from Barrie, liked and shared as usual. Mike Parent, City Councillor here in Greater Sudbury, on this morning, giving a morning shout out. Good morning, Mike. Thanks for being on. Thanks for being with us. David, good morning. Okay. Union of Canadian Socialist Republic. Okay. Is that Union of Canadian Socialist Republic? It would be an interesting shout out in the morning for sure. Just trying to read comment there. And good morning to you, David. And looks like we had Marvin on YouTube, but he made the pilgrimage over to Facebook here. Good morning, everyone. Marvin again. Hazel, good morning. Prayer sign. Same to you, Hazel. And morning, Vin. Belinda says all corruption in all levels of government are destined to be exposed. TikTok. Do you mean TikTok because they're destined to be exposed? The clock is ticking, or TikTok the app, right? Either one. shouldn't truth always be exposed? Isn't this what the media is supposed to be doing and supposed to have been doing and continue to do? Is just expose things, is dig in and find out information and let the public know. It's supposed to be the watchdog for society. And unfortunately, our media has done some weird things over the last few years where they've kind of chosen sides. So you have left-wing media and right-wing media, and it's definitely unbalanced to the left-wing media. There's many more outlets that are left-wing media than right-wing. And then you have a new type of media that's evolved over the last few years, which is independent media, which seems to be doing the job that mainstream media was supposed to be doing. But the only reason there is an independent media is because they weren't doing the job, and it opened up opportunities for people to actually start doing real news. And that's your independent media, right? There wouldn't be an independent media if the real media was actually doing their job, right? Because you'd be watching the news and you'd be like, holy, this is exactly what's going on. Because when they tell me something, I go do my own research and I see, wait a minute, that's really what's going on. They're not trying to pull the wool over my eyes, or they're not trying to not say something, or they're not spinning it a certain way. And then the independent media people would be out there doing the same thing, and people would be like, well, why do I need independent media when the real media is actually telling me real news? So the independent media would just totally collapse, the whole industry. But it's thriving, and it's thriving for a reason. It's thriving because mainstream media is not doing classic journalism. What we've always thought journalism needs to be is simply asking the 5 W's and H of good reporting, the who, what, when, where, how, right? Of good journalism. What I was taught in grade 5 and grade 7 by one of the greatest teachers to ever live. And you need to ask questions if you're a journalist. And it seems like they maybe do ask questions, but the questions they're asking sometimes aren't the ones to really get to the bottom of what's really going on, to inform people of the real things that are going on in our society, right? We get a little bit of it. And sometimes they surprise us and they go, wow, they actually asked a hard question. But we shouldn't be surprised that media is actually asking a hard question every once in a while. It should be the norm. Politicians should be absolutely afraid of politicians. I mean, journalists. Well, politicians are afraid of politicians. That's why they jail their rivals more and more in our society, and they, try and do whatever they can to get rid of their opposition. Good morning, David. Take care. Stay safe. Same to you, especially today with the weather. School buses are canceled this morning, everyone, by the way, from Manitoulin Island all the way to the North Shore, Sudbury. School buses are canceled this morning. And again, you probably already know that if you have a little one. The illusion of elections, which I believe are rigged, this is Marianne. The presence of Dominion machines, which are illegal, and they pass them off as counting machines. They make us think we have a voice, but we go out and vote. Better than doing nothing. Yeah, that sounds like the sentiment of most people these days, losing confidence in our system. And it's just not, we're becoming very apathetic in the least. And Denise, good morning. All have a wonderful day. Stay safe, healthy, like and share. Thanks, Denise, so much for that. Exactly. All levels of government are corrupt, bottom to top. See, this is the way most Canadians feel. And I can say most Canadians, like CBC and CTV say that all the time. Many Canadians, as if it's a real thing, as if they've done some kind of scientific polling or something. Many Canadians think, I'm actually going to say most Canadians don't have much confidence in our electoral system. Pat, good morning, peoples, peace sign, and smiley emoji face. Vin, 8 out of 10 Canadians are now worse off by liberal standards. And they're bragging about it. They're worse off by liberal standards and they're bragging about it? Exactly. Very, very interesting. Gordie Howe, elbows up, LOL, thumbs up. That's Marvin. Marianne, I say fingers up. Smiley emoji. And Lucy, good morning to you. And good morning, everyone. Same to you, Lucy. Marianne, shop as normal. That's all I do. I just shop. I try and save myself as much money as I can. I think that's the way to keep the economy going and keep businesses accountable, to keep prices as low as they can, because I'll buy yours if it's reasonably priced. That's what economies should be. Good morning, Jerome. Thanks for all of the videos that you've been sharing lately. We really appreciate it. I might even share one in a few moments here about the hypocriticalness of our government with the carbon tax being taken off the consumer end of it, making cheaper gas prices, when they told us we would be making more money from the carbon tax. It's just interesting. So why are they taking it away if we're making money from the carbon tax? Remember, 8 out of 10 Canadians are actually making more money when we put money in Canadians' pockets. You know what I'm talking about. You've heard that millions of times. But now you're making more money because the carbon tax is taken off. So you can't blow and suck at the same time. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Either we were making more money when you were taxing us, or we're making more money when you take the tax away. You can't have it both ways, right? But it's politics and Canadians are gullible. A lot of them are. It's crazy. Canada needs to be more self-sufficient. Bottom line, every politician, past and present, have sold out Canadians. That's Marianne. Anyone catch the snow fibers yesterday, not snowflakes? Hey, it's interesting you say that. It reminded me of insulation. When you shake the insulation, it's just shards of glass. That's all it is. All the snow was yesterday were little lines. They weren't snowflakes. They were like someone was shaking a big bat of insulation over our heads and the little shards of glass were falling on us. I noticed it on my window as driving home. So thank you, Vin, for pointing that out. It's not normal. We're not getting normal snow and normal weather. We've talked about it, the geoengineering that's taking place over our heads. It is a fact. It's taking place. Countries are doing it. They're doing it when it's publicly known. They say the reason is to cool the earth, to prevent global warming, but they are manipulating the weather. They are putting chemicals into our skies, and it is affecting the type of precipitation that comes down on us. And if you noticed it, like we did yesterday, driving, when you see on your windshield what was there, and it wouldn't melt right away either. It stayed there for a while. Actually, it wouldn't melt for a long time. And there were just little shards that looked like lines, little lines. That's all the snow looked like, apparent snow. Right? So it's just bizarre. Okay, so we're going to dive right into some of our headlines today because we want to make time for other things as well, right? So coming from our news aggregator here, and thanks, continue to comment, guys. Really appreciate all y'all for being on. Bank economist predicts long-term stability despite tariffs. That's from Sudbury.com. So regardless of the tariffs, they're predicting that we're going to have a strong economy regardless. Yes, and again, morning school buses canceled, Sudbury, Espanola, Massey areas. And school transportation will run in the afternoon and all schools will remain open. But this morning they are not running. It's got to be done or we won't survive. So this is the headline from CBC. Plans for oil pipeline across Northern Ontario getting a second look. Plans for a cross-country oil pipeline that a decade ago saw voices raised at public meetings across northeastern Ontario could get dusted off to help Canada in its trade war with the US. Shame on the people, this government, who were instrumental in legally or illegally, according to the Supreme Court of Canada, making bills to make it impossible to build pipelines in Canada. Can you imagine that? The Liberal government actually made a bill that said it's going to be illegal to make a pipeline? Any more pipelines in Canada? Go figure. And good morning, Dan. Thanks for being on. So this is pretty crazy stuff. But anyways, we're getting a second look here. I guess they're rethinking things. Mark Carney says, no. There'll be no more pipelines in Canada. He was asked that. And Penny, good morning from DR. Good morning, Penny. So if you vote for the Liberals, Mark Carney's already said, no more pipelines. Because his company, Brookfield Assets, is about to buy some pipelines in the United States, which he's going to make a lot more money from. If we can't build pipelines in Canada, there's supply and demand, right? So it makes more of a demand from the oil that's actually going through the U.S. pipelines that his company is about to buy. It's going to make his shareholders and investors make way more money. So he wants to keep the oil in the ground. 85% of the oil they want to keep in the ground comes from the policies he was part of making from the WEF, which now becomes Canadian policy, as he's trying to instill WEF policies into Canada and has been doing that. So you think, oh, these are really great environmental policies. No, they're not. They're to make a certain few people in the world very rich and you very poor. That is what is at the heart of these policies, not to save the planet. They know the planet's going to be here and they want to be rich on this planet while you are poor. That's the bottom line. But anyways, they're getting a second look here. And what about these, the flip-flopping going on with the Liberal government now? The carbon tax is taken away. It was supposed to make you rich, right? Well, there was a really great video shared to me this morning from Jerome. This is a girl, I have her on my feeds all the time. She has some really good insights into things. And I guess she's living in the United States right now, but she is still Canadian, but she's living in Texas. She's part of the oil industry, right? She works in it. And let's see if I can get this to come about here without... Okay. Well, we got this up and running. So her and her husband have moved to the U.S. and they work in Texas in the oil industry. And so they have a lot of insight into that industry and how the politics are being affected. But most people didn't really pay attention to it until recently, until our economy actually starts being affected by energy and tariffs. And it's been in the news now, but this has been going on for years to suppress our oil industry in Canada to make more money for people as they decrease the supply on the market. It increases demand, so it increases their money that they're making. Mark Carney being the head of one of the biggest investment firms to make that money. So he has everything to gain by keeping Canadian oil in the ground, and he gets very, very rich and becomes a multi-billionaire due to making these policies, which now Facebook isn't liking what I'm talking about. So hopefully we don't get, hopefully we can keep the feed going here this morning. Good morning, Andrew. Thanks for being on. And Sheila's joining us from Quebec. Good morning, Sheila. All right, looks like we're ready to go here. And hopefully the sound will come on right away.
So for 5 years now, the Liberal Canadians have been trying to convince us normal people that paying a carbon tax means we save money. Like individuals save money. And if you're like, how does paying a tax save you money? It doesn't. It literally doesn't. So because we're going into an election, Mark Carney decided to take that carbon tax away just for us consumers. And already the prices at the pumps have decreased by 20 to 40 cents a liter across the country. And now they're bragging online that they're saving Canadians money. This is so painful. Honest to God, honestly, this cannot be a real country and these cannot be real people. Let me just show you this. Our policies are already hard at work. Gas prices are already coming down and we're putting more money back in Canadians' pockets. Like, what the? These people who put the carbon tax in place and have been increasing it every year for 5 years are now realizing that if you don't pay a tax, you save money. And liberal Canadians online are like, yay! These are adults. These people vote. These people procreate. Somehow they hold jobs. I don't know how. And they drive. This can't be real. And then they're trying to go online. They're like, Pierre Poilievre's going to take women's rights away. You don't even know what a woman is, my guys. What? Canada's not a serious country. Please, let's make this election too big to rig. Like, we cannot do this anymore. We cannot go on like this anymore. Liberals have evaded all logic. They've yeeted logic, like, out of the atmosphere. There is no logic. It's just gaslighting and NPC behavior and just repeating of whatever the CBC says. And then if you challenge their thinking from, like, a year ago when they were trying to convince us that paying more taxes would save us money, they don't even, they're like, I didn't have no, you guys. These people cannot be real. Like, you cannot be real. How do you hold a job?
So again, right? So it comes back to the question I was talking about yesterday, where if you question people about these things, they're not able to really give you a articulated answer that actually makes sense. And it just turns into emotions after a while, and then people just get upset. They hang up on you. They cancel you. They blow up at you and walk away. They slam a door. You know what I mean? It's like, just answer the question. Like, okay, so how could one day the carbon tax was putting money in Canadians' pockets? There are a lot of debates in the House Commons like this, and Pierre Poilievre, to his credit, was really all over this. And good morning, Supoj from Thailand. I know I pronounced your name probably not the most correct, but good morning from Thailand. Thanks for being on. And so in the House of Commons, they debated this to no end. And Pierre Poilievre's like, tell me how taxing people actually makes people money. I don't understand this logic. You know, like just trying to ask some, and the answers that would come back were just, they didn't make any sense whatsoever, because you can't tax people and then it makes them more money. Either you tax them, it's taking money away, or you give them money. It can't be both, right? You can't be both. It's opposites. But here, so one day they're making you money by putting money in your pockets with the carbon tax credit. So now people aren't going to be getting the carbon tax credit anymore because they took away the consumer carbon tax. But now they're saving you money. They're actually putting money in your pocket still. So how can you tax people, make them money, take the tax away, and still make them money all the time you're making money? You don't see the lies and the hypocrisy in that kind of thinking? You know, and that's not the only thing. And there's millions of things. It's a mind virus, if you ask me, full on. And I coined that phrase before it came out in mainstream. I remember one day it's like a mind virus. And it's true. It's a thought virus. The way to kind of combat the thought virus is ask yourself some deep questions. Question your assumptions. You assume things. You know what happens when you assume. You assume your logic is right. Continue to question it. Ask yourself, is this what I think truly right? Right? And this is one of those cases. So another thing that has been really perpetuated lately is DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. It sounds so beautiful. And in the wording, it is beautiful, right? Who doesn't want to have a diverse anything and be equal, which is not equity, by the way. But when you hear equity, you think equal. But equity, everyone's equal is what you think it means. Or inclusion. These three things are beautiful words. And to people who don't dig any deeper than that, it sounds like a euphoric utopia where everybody holds hands and sings Kumbaya. And good morning from Niagara, Betty. Yes, we are trying to get through all the geoengineered storms that we've been having the last little while here in Northern Ontario. And you guys down there have had a lot of power outages due to that as well. Southern Ontario, sending love across Ontario and to Quebec and Alberta and Thailand and all the people joining us from all over the world. We really appreciate it. But you might have some of this DEI in your countries or your provinces or your whatever, your businesses, and it sounds great, right? Now, we just had a gentleman fired from his job because he chose to run for a political party that says DEI isn't what it's all cracked up to be. You know, and we believe that's what it is because this particular company, Best Tech, are entrenched in DEI ideology. That's part of their HR. That's on their website. They believe, they eat, sleep, breathe DEI, right? And so the party that this particular gentleman, Banderoff, who was running for the PPC Party of Canada, he was going to run for the PPC. He is running. He's the candidate for the PPC Party in Sudbury. Well, Sudbury.com does a story on him, and the next day, he's fired. So there's more than likely a correlation. So diversity, right? You would think he would come back to work and people going, are you really running for that company that doesn't believe in DEI? You know what? Congratulations, Mr. Bondaroff. That is so cool because what could be more diverse than someone who actually doesn't even believe in our diversity policy? That's the most diverse we could actually get. That's so cool. This is excellent. We get a chance to practice our beliefs here. And talk about equity, being equity, a guy who doesn't even believe in it. And inclusion, we are going to include a guy who doesn't even believe in this policy itself. This is so cool. We're going to show how benevolent this policy is by including someone who's so diverse they don't even believe in the policy itself. And we're going to include him. It's so inclusive, you know? It's kind of like Canada. They're so diverse and equitable and inclusive that we include in our parliament politicians who don't even want to be Canadian. And they get elected from a province who wants to break away. And we're like, yes, we include you. We're inclusive. Come in our parliament. Be paid by our tax dollars. And fight against us and try to separate us. Yes, we agree with that. You know? But no. You don't think like us? You don't want this? You don't think diversity, equity, and inclusion is a good policy? Out with you. You're fired. No soup for you. Right? Meanwhile, it goes totally against their very policy of what it stands for. Right? So it's not, it's only if you agree with us, so it's not diverse. It's not diversity of thought. It's diversity of skin color, cultures, things like that. It's not diversity of you think different than me. You can't think different. You got to think the same. How is it equitable that this person gets to be fired because he is going to run for a political party? He's not going to win, by the way, more than likely. The odds are totally stacked against the PPC in this election. He's going to run. He's going to spend his money and his time. And, doesn't it show some integrity that he's willing to go out and stand up for what he believes in? Isn't that pretty diverse? Isn't that someone you'd actually want in your company? And inclusive, not inclusive one single bit, right? So here's a bit from John Stossel talking about DEI. Maybe he can shed a little bit more light on it than I can, right? Here you go. Sound, please.
DEI office and diversity, equity, inclusion. Sounds. Every big company now has a DEI office, and diversity, equity, inclusion sounds good.
That's true. I did a report and I confirmed that all 100 of the Fortune 100 companies have DEI bureaucracies. So it is universal among the large companies in the United States. And I think a lot of this stuff is well-intentioned. CEOs see across their desk, for 2 minutes, a memo that says diversity, equity, inclusion. Oh, that sounds great. Let's do it. But what you have to understand is that this is a linguistic shell game. It's a form of hide the ball. And diversity actually means judging people not on the basis of their individual strengths and weaknesses, but on the basis of their group identity. And then awarding benefits and punishments in a collective manner on the basis of race and sexuality most predominantly, in order to equalize group outcomes, regardless of merit, regardless of performance, regardless of individual character.
That's what equity means, right?
Equity means the forcible distribution of benefits and punishments on the basis of group identity. And inclusion is really the worst of all. It means inclusion of left-wing ideas, concepts, and priorities, and then excluding anything that might be a kind of center left even, or certainly center right. And so people who represent the wrong skin color, the wrong sexual orientation, are excluded in favor of others who are in a favored category. And then even ideas. I'd like to maybe have our corporate employees listening to the interview try an experiment. They should bring a kind of trans pride flag into the office and hang it on in the hallway, see what happens. And then they should also bring a MAGA hat or a MAGA flag into the office and hang it on the same hallway and see what the reaction is from management and executives. But we have a cultural problem in which in virtually all of our institutions, it's seen as second nature to, for example, endorse Black Lives Matter, a left-wing kind of racial activist organization that was responsible for rioting, violence, death, destruction in the summer of 2020. But if you were to say, I'm pro-life and I want to have a pro-life message in a corporate setting, or let's say a pro-Second Amendment message in a corporate setting, it would be shut down immediately. You would certainly be at risk of ostracization, maybe even lose your job. And the question is, well, why is that?
There's much more in my full interview with Chris Rufo. You can watch that at johnstossel.com.
So cool. Again, John Stossel, love his form of journalism. It's always about as unbiased as I've ever been able to see, but does point out hypocrisies in different ideologies. So if you're wondering, oh, that sounds biased to me that they're only saying these things, it sounds like they're talking bad about DEI. No, they're talking truthfully about DEI. So if you're talking truthfully about DEI and what it actually is, and he gave some really good examples, right? So if you go to work and you're like, bring in the rainbow flag and you put it on your desk, everyone's they might even come, treat you with more respect or whatever. They'll definitely just allow it and it's fine. But if you came in with a "Don't tread on me" flag, or even the Canadian flag was becoming very controversial when it was used by the truckers in 2022 in their protests, right? A lot of people on the left were starting to associate that movement with the Canadian flag, and they're starting, even if you had a Canadian flag, that was racist for a while there. So flags, identity means everything to these people who think this way, like this collective way. And just again, question it. If you're hearing my voice and you're wondering, if someone came in with a MAGA hat into your workplace, how would your workplace deal with that? Like, what would people think? Just like this particular gentleman who's running for the PPC party here in Sudbury, it was just an article. He didn't even come into work. He wasn't wearing T-shirts. As far as I know, he wasn't trying to convert people to his ideology, or he was just doing his job, and he was going to run for a party that he felt he aligned with. But work didn't agree with that and fired him. So this is, just questioning our own assumptions. DEI is not what it's chalked up to be. It's there to take the place of what we already have. We already have a Judeo-Christian foundation of the Western of Western societies that already includes, it already welcomes diversity, and it already gives equal opportunities to people. And so that way you can then be judged by your merit and not by the color of your skin. Right? Where did that come from? That came from Martin Luther King. Right? Judged by who you are, the character that you are, not by the color of your skin. But this DEI movement, it's a hijacked HR ideological policy that is from a political motivation. And it's not right. It doesn't have the outcomes that it sounds like. It's like some type of imitation masquerading as a true thing. You know? If you, it's like a banana candy or a banana popsicle compared to a banana. Like, it's not the same thing. One's a flavor and one's the real thing. We already have the real thing. But they came in and they said, no, we're racist. We are terrible people. Look at all the bad things we've done over time. We need to be, to have these things installed. And we're going to force you to live them. And when anyone's forced to do anything, it's not right. We naturally do this as a society. Why do you think people are banging down the doors to come to Western countries? Why do you think we have such mass immigration? Why don't you think they have the same problem in their countries where they're coming here to our countries? I'm talking about new Canadians. They want to come here. Americans, they want what we have. What is it that we have that they want? It's the exact same thing I'm talking about here. It's the values that we built Western society on that they're coming to do. But then we have these entities that have been calling that bad and for so many years and teaching it to us in universities and whatever. And now they're forcing us through these policies that are not what they're cracked up to be. And they're proven time and time again, like right here in Sudbury, to be that very thing. It's not very inclusive, right? When you're firing somebody for their beliefs. That's not diverse. That's not equity. So shame on you for doing that. Shame on you for not thinking for yourself and actually, not digging a little deeper and just thinking, oh, diversity, equity, inclusion sounds so good. I'm going to incorporate that into my business. Now look, you just fired someone for no reason. You're probably going to end up with a huge lawsuit on your hands, and you're probably going to end up with a huge payout. You're going to have to pay on this one too. Like, that's just what it's going to happen. It's not to say all the publicity that's happening through it as well. So Best Tech doesn't look very best in terms of their HR policies. That's for darn sure. And that's all the time we have for the show today. I really appreciate you guys for being on, for commenting. Appreciate CKLU, Facebook, and YouTube for providing our lives. And all of you all for being on and commenting. Stay tuned for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. We'll be back, God willing, same time, same place, on the same platforms. And remember to continue to stay aware. Like, share, take care. Ciao, everyone. Have a great day. Take care and stay safe.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.